Alright, so today I want to show you the simplicity of keeping ball pythons in a rack system, and as a matter of fact I want to show you how easy it is keeping rodents in a rack system as well. I actually started out keeping my rodents in glass aquariums, and I got to the point where I had all these glass aquariums on wire shelves. It was a lot of work, and when I moved over to a rack system, especially for my rodents, it was so much easier. I probably cut 80% of my maintenance moving the rodents into a rack system. Now I can keep a lot more rodents and it's a lot less work. And keeping ball pythons, I would say, as far as keeping them in a glass aquarium, it's a little bit tricky because their safe zone in a glass aquarium is essentially the dark hide. They like to spend most of their time in that hide, and when you move them into a rack system like the racks I have behind me, these are from ARS Caging. Essentially what it does is it takes the whole enclosure and it turns it into a dark hide. So essentially what it does is it expands their comfort zone so they're comfortable moving about and staying in that tub, versus if you have them in a glass aquarium, really the size of the hide is their safe spot. So I kind of want to go through some of my racking systems and show you kind of how I maintain, just really quickly with the water and the bedding, the spot cleaning and everything, just how easy it is maintaining and keeping control of all my animals with these rack systems. Alright, so I'm just going to walk you kind of through all the steps that I do to clean in these racks, and I'm just going to start with this ARS 5040, and essentially what I do is like pretty much go from the top to the bottom. On the very top, it's so high up I actually need a step ladder. I'm not going to actually go all the way to the top. What I'm going to do is kind of go through a middle row, and you can see on some of these are actually males that I have in different tubs that are paired up. I'm not actually going to spot clean. Normally what I do is I kind of skip over the spot clean for a lot of the paired up snakes. And what I do is I usually just check, you know, the water and make sure there's enough humidity in the substrate. And this is kind of the gear that I have using all this gear to maintain it. It's really quick and really easy. You'd be surprised how easy it is. I mean, the first time you look at all these tubs, you're like, man, that is a lot of work. But it's not really a lot of work once you have a system in place and you get on a routine. So what I do is we can just start kind of going through these. What I do is I open up the tub and I take a look and see if there's any mess in the back. On this one, there's not. This one's kind of freaking out a little bit. This is look at how big this one's getting. This is my year-old 50% het pied girl, looking really good. And usually if they go to the bathroom in the back, what happens is they'll come up to the front. So usually if they're sitting up in the front, you know you need to spot clean, look for something in the back. And what I usually do is, this water's clean. Normally I would pass on this, I wouldn't clean it. What I do is I just come over here, dump it in here, get a new cup, and then put my cup right in here, nice and easy. I come over here, grab my water jug, and then just fill the cup just like this. And if it's, you know, even if the water's clean, if it's been in there for like a week or a week and a half, I still go through and change it. But usually, unless it's really dirty, I don't change it. And then I use this little water can right here, and this is fantastic. If you just take a look at this, I actually just go through real quick and just water real quick right in there, and that is it. And you can go through the tubs really quick. It's super fast. I'm even doing it with one hand, with a camera in one hand. And this one, there's no snake in here, so normally I don't even clean the water or even add humidity to the substrate until I put the males back after breeding. Usually it's a few days, so I don't even mess with those. If we take a look at this one, you can see this one is all curled up in the back. Usually if they make a mess, they don't sit on it. So I can almost guarantee there's nothing underneath this lesser clown that would make a mess. And essentially what I do is just dump the cups, grab another cup, and then fill it up with my little jug here. And keep in mind, I'm doing this with one hand. I can actually go faster if I don't have a camera in one hand. And that is it. I just go through really quick, going through all my snakes. And this is paired up. Usually what I do on my pairs, this is my banana inchy clown and my clown female. I don't want to interrupt them if they're actually in a copulation. And it looks like their tails could be close together. So what I'm going to do for this one is just change the water real quick. And then I'm going to give them a little bit of extra humidity in here. And usually this doesn't even bother them. If you don't get the water on the snake, usually it's not a problem at all. It's super easy to go through these. So when I'm changing the substrate in these, what I actually do is I keep extra substrate in this tub right here. And you can see it's almost completely gone. I've been using it quite a bit. What I do is I just put a little cup right in here so nothing gets in there. And I put the substrate right in here, just like that. It's super easy to replace these, no problem at all. And just kind of, what I like to do is I like to put just a little bit in here, about halfway up the cup here, and I like to keep the back pretty much open. Depends on the size of the snake too. So if I have a really big snake, I keep a lot open. If I have a smaller snake, I'll keep a little less open like that. And then what I'll do is I'll add a little humidity here into the substrate, just a little bit. And then I will put in a cup here, and then this water jug is almost out. I'll have to grab another one. And then what I do is I just swap it out. It's really super easy. Alright, so I wanted to change a tub just so you can see how easy it is to change a tub. Essentially what I do is I put the new tub with the new substrate and the new cup right in here, and I take the old one out and I put it right on the table over here. And these look at that bumblebee. That bumblebee looks like she is gonna take a bite. That is one crazy snake. She is probably my most aggressive ball python. You definitely don't want to get close to that because she'll definitely take a bite from you. Look at that crazy snake. And sometimes you can actually kind of get behind them. What you really want to do is kind of get behind them like this and kind of touch them a little, kind of get them off guard like that. That's how you approach a snake that is kind of aggressive. Ball pythons, really you can get around them. So essentially what I do is I move them over like this, and you can definitely tell on this one, especially on the white snakes, it's a little bit dirty from the mess. So what I'll actually do is take a wet paper towel that's just kind of wet with water, and I'll kind of wipe her down a little bit. Him, this is actually the male. And usually what I do is, you know, I actually just changed the substrate on these not too long ago. It's only been not even a week. So normally I wouldn't go and change the whole substrate. Normally what I do is I would just spot clean in the back, and then I would just kind of wipe down the snake if the snake was dirty. Let's see if we can get this guy back in here. And then this girl over here, and let's see if we can get her. She's a little bit fired up. Hopefully she won't take a bite today. And that's pretty much it. You just put them in there and close it up. This is a little bit crowded for two snakes, but they're pretty small. They're not really that big, and it's only temporary. I'll probably only keep them together for maybe 3 or 4 days every month. So usually it's just one snake in here, not bad at all. And then the feeding card, I got to move the feeding card over. This is the feeding card for the female. Had a couple live rats. And then I also use a little binder clip. And the binder clip, when I feed, I put it over on the right. And then when I come back and check if they've actually eaten, I'll mark it on the card and then move it back over to the middle. Alright, so for cleaning the dirty tubs, what I do is I take a metal spoon and I clean out all the mess and dump it in the trash. You can actually save most of the substrate and sell it as landscaping material. I usually do that in the summer. And then what I do is I use a squirt bottle with, right now I'm using this F10 SCXD. And I actually use 10 mils per container of water and then dilute it for water. I think this is like a liter. And then what I do is I just kind of spray it in there, let it soak for a little bit, and then wipe it down with the paper towel, and then I'm ready to go. I usually probably go through and change all the substrate, I'd say maybe once a month, usually on the first of the month. That's probably the biggest challenge, is going through and actually replacing all the substrate on all these tubs. That is a really big job. And normally what I do is I take it a section at a time. Like one day I'll go through like just the top half of this rack, and then the next day I'll I'll do the bottom half. The next day I'll go through like a hatchling rack, and the next day I'll go through and do this rack and just kind of break it up day by day. And normally what I do is I go through all my rats and mice and clean all those, and as soon as I get all those clean, then I go through all these and spot clean. Just check the waters, do a quick spot clean, make sure everyone has enough moisture in the substrate, and at the beginning of the month I go through and do a really deep cleaning, change all the substrate in all these tubs. Alright, so let's talk about rats. How do I clean my rats? And this is kind of a completely different setup. What I do is I move my table over to the other side of the room, and this is the setup I have. I don't really use a lot of water. So if you kind of look at this rack system for the rats, what I have is I have 5-gallon buckets of water up on the top, which run nozzles all the way down every single level throughout my whole rat rack. And you know what that means? That means I don't have a million water dishes. I think I have 50 tubs here. Could you imagine if I had 50 water dishes I would have to clean every single week? That would be a lot of work. So just that right there cuts down a lot of labor. And then in the back I actually have these bins, these metal bins made out of the sheet metal. Those actually hold all of the rat food from the top so they can eat it from underneath for the rats and the mice, and that saves, could you imagine if I had that cuts down too on all the bowls of food they have to deal with, and the only thing you're really left with is just a tub, which is really easy to clean. And what I do is I use this Rocky Mountain softwood screen shavings. It's a kiln dried, almost dust-free pine that is pretty much rodent safe. I haven't had any problems losing any rodents from this. And what I do is I just pretty much put it on my table and then line up 2 tubs like this. And this is the tub I fill first, and then I move these tubs over and fill those. And what I actually, I don't know if you guys are a pocket knife aficionado, but this is what I actually have used and carried for a long time. This is actually my, this is Columbia River knife and tool. This is called the Big Dog, and it's a really awesome knife. You can actually see on the blade, it's an M1614T, which is, the problem is I really love this knife. As a matter of fact, I've had like 5 of these knives, and I lost a bunch of them, and then I finally got this one with the titanium blade, the titanium handle, which is really awesome. The problem is here in Colorado, it's illegal to carry this concealed in your pocket because the knife blade is actually, it's actually 4 inches, which is illegal as a carry. So, you actually need a permit to actually carry this knife, which is kind of a bummer. So I actually just upgraded to another knife. You guys are going to drool over this. If you're into knives, take a look at this knife. This knife right here is actually illegal in most states. This is actually Microtech Ultratech, and what it is, it's actually an automatic blade, which is pretty cool. It's like an automatic switchblade. These are actually illegal in most countries. As a matter of fact, I was looking up the rules in some countries. If you're actually caught with one of these in some countries, it's actually 3 years in prison for one of these. Luckily here in Colorado, I can actually carry one concealed if the blade is less than 3.5 inches. This is actually less than 3.5 inches. And if you get bored in your snake room and there's nothing to do, you can just kind of move it's kind of one of those nervous OCD things you can play with your knife. Really awesome knife. I don't know if you guys are into knife, but that is really awesome. Essentially what I do from here, after I'm done playing with my knife, is actually just kind of dump the shavings right down into my tub here, kind of spread it out. And I like to get just enough in there to where it covers the bottom, but you don't want too much, because if you put too much bedding in here, there's not really enough room for the rodents, just enough to cover the bottom. And then what I do is I move the next one over and then move that down, and then the next one and the next one. And if you have 2 hands, it's a lot easier because I'm holding the camera in one hand. It's a little bit slower, but it goes really quick. And then once you come over to actually putting them in the rack, what I like to do is I like to have one tub that is open with no rats in it, that's nice and clean, and that way you know, kind of like the snakes, if you actually pull this out and put another tub in, you could actually lose your rodents from jumping out. So I was like an extra tub, and I like to keep it about that wide open. And then what I do is I just move my rats right over to the next tub. Just like this. And I know some people say it's not good to pick them up by the tail, but let me tell you, these rats are not friendly. These rats would probably bite you if they had the chance. They're semi-friendly. I wouldn't actually trust putting my hand around the bottom of them. And then what I do is I just move the male and the female sticker over. As a matter of fact, I used to keep 1 male and 4 females, but I'm actually cutting back. I'm thinking about doing just 1 male and 2 females, because by the time they have babies in here and they start growing up a little bit, it's just way too much. I think 1 male and 2 females is perfect for this size of a tub. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Manitou Ghost asks, how long does it take to feed all of my ball pythons? And that is a very good question. I have quite a few tubs in here. I can house up to almost 150, maybe even 160 snakes down here in my reptile room. And right now I probably have about maybe 80 or 90 ball pythons. So it's not really the crazy season where I have a lot of mouths to feed. It's probably about half what I usually have. And essentially what I do is I go through my rodents. So for example, on Monday I'll clean maybe a third of my rodent tubs, and then if I have extra rodents, I'll feed those, say for example, to my hatchlings, and then I'll go through another portion of my rodent tubs and I'll clean all those. And then if I have like medium rats, then I'll feed those to my grow outs. And then pretty much I end over here on the bigger tubs where I have a lot of my bigger grow out rats, and I'll feed those to my adult ball pythons. And then that's pretty much Monday through Wednesday where I'm going through and feeding. And then what I do from there is I usually go through and I spot clean parts of the reptile room and come all the way back around, and by that time it's time to do the rodents again. So I'd say probably on average it takes me maybe 2 or 3 hours to actually, probably clean a portion of the rodents and feed my snakes at the same time. It's kind of all mixed together. It's kind of hard to know exactly how long it takes. I'd say on average I probably spend 2 or 3 hours a night down here in my reptile room. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.